Hello everyone, a warm welcome from the Unit X team. Welcome to our third Inspira talk. Our Inspira series aims to tackle the big questions of the future of design, as well as what it's like to work, live and breathe as a creative change maker. We are working in collaboration with the Design Factory and our research readers who will come up and say a few words this evening. And we're just really excited to welcome Amy from All Magazine. And unfortunately, we were supposed to have Heather from Underbank Studios, but she was unable to make it. She's come down with something today. So she sends her apologies, but we've still got some excellent discussion to have this evening. So without further ado, I will hand over to Gemma.
Are you all scared at the prospect of the future of design? That really, I'd be like, oh my God. Hi everyone, if you don't know me, I am Gemma Potter. I'm a research associate here in the Department of Design, so you probably might not have seen me up to now teaching necessarily, but hopefully you will in the future. So Design Factory is a new innovation hub here at the Manchester School of Art. It's a vehicle for our community of practitioners, researchers and students, which is you guys, to design locally based sustainable development with the potential to reach beyond our city. We take a participatory approach to designing innovation that is social and inclusive. And through this activity, we hope that Design Factory will be able to apply design thinking and doing the theme of repurpose, working with creative businesses and social enterprises to actively develop sustainable ways of collectively thriving. And a lot of this activity is going to be happening in relation to Stockport through a cultural capital development funded project. And some of you might be getting involved in a Unit X project that's linked with Stockport as well. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Adam, who's going to introduce our speaker this evening.
I feel like I'm about to do a really bad best man speech right now. A little brief intro. So we've asked Amy to join us from All Magazine because we thought as part of Unit X, Amy kind of really illustrates everything that Unit X is about. I'm sure Amy will talk about All Magazine in its kind of birth and its journey, but it started in second year on Unit X as a project, and then it's kind of grown into her third year, into a graduating year, and in 3-4 years later, it's still kind of running. I think it kind of folds in a lot of things that we're about as a kind of design department, as an art school. There's a lot of things about entrepreneurialism, big word, and about that kind of independent DIY kind of ethos that I think more and more people are going into. And I think it's something that starts here within the walls of the art school, and it can kind of go beyond into the city and beyond that as well, which I'm sure Amy will get towards. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Amy Shenton.
Hello everyone, sorry I'm a little bit nervous because I'm used to kind of sitting where you're sat, not stood at the front. But I'm Amy Shenton, I do All Magazine. A little bit about me. I'm a graduate from graphic design from MMU 2 years ago? Yeah, 2022. I work as a magazine designer for All Magazine and a visual artist at the Warehouse Project. Here to speak about All Magazine on your project that you're doing at the minute. So feel free to take photos of the slides as there's a lot to go through. I've also got my email address at the end and answer any questions. So what is All Magazine? It's a printed and digital magazine. It features art, photography, fashion and music, and it looks at talented young individuals in a different city for each issue. It's all about community and collaboration and making a space for people to express themselves, create and discover other like-minded people. So we make the magazine, we do t-shirts and we do events as well, which are over there. This is just like a quick video. This is made by Geek Files for issue 1. That was just a little intro video. So yeah, these are the 3 issues that I've done. The first one that I did was at uni. It's obviously the one you can see up there. That was in 2021. With that cover, I kind of went for a bit more of a college vibe, and that was Manchester. Then I did issue 2, which is Manchester 2, and then issue 3, which is London. So this is the Instagram and website, if you want to have a look. But yeah, I run all of this myself. I do the social media management, the events management, the layout, the design, everything basically. And it's a lot of work, but it's really fun. So how did it all start? I started this during COVID on the Unique X project, and we were given the brief, sign a new magazine and generate a body of content for an online-offline theme. So I kind of wanted to do an offline printed magazine and an online kind of, like digital magazine. So these are the initial ideas I got at the very start when we initially got the brief. I was just thinking, okay, how can I do online and offline? What can I do to make the magazine different? So like the shape, the layout, the text, the packaging. Could I feature people, kind of magazines that I'm interested in, and all those other bits. So these are some of the magazines that I was initially inspired by. Off the Rails is a massive inspiration of mine. I've actually got the copy that's in the top left-hand corner, and then 16 Mag as well. But as you can tell, I kind of like really bright, colourful portraiture and like scribbles and stuff. So I thought, what should my subject be? What do I like, my interest? What do I look for in other magazines? And what would I want to read and buy? So I came up with Arts and Culture magazine, looking at talented young creatives within art, photography, music and fashion. Something that's really important is mood boards. As you've like all probably done them before, I use Pinterest, but it just really helps with like the visual identity of what you're kind of going for. Obviously, with all of you being on graphic design, you're probably like me, where you need everything kind of right in front of you visually. And so this like mood board is a great way to kind of see that and like get consistency with your magazine. So, finding people. If you're doing a magazine that is based on people and featuring other people, it's really important to find people. So friends, do they make cool stuff? Do they know people? Instagram and social media. Have you come across someone on social media whose work you really like? Is there online communities? This is a massive one, but attending local events to do with your subject, getting out there and going to like art exhibitions, gallery events, music events, and kind of networking and just meeting people is great, because they will ask you what you do and you can almost sell yourself. And then the uni. Do you know anyone on the fashion, photography, architecture floor? Do the tutors know anybody? Can you put out a call out? This can either be like online, or you can put out posters or flyers. So my main way was Instagram. Obviously this is a lot of writing, so I'll just kind of go through it quick. But I spend a lot of time on Instagram discovering people who are making cool work, and I have to do lots of digging because of my magazine being a different city for each issue. I have to really try and find people and make sure that they're from the city that I'm focusing on, because they're not often explicitly there. I have to go on their about pages, on their websites. I have to see if they've got any locations tagged. Basically just like a tiny little bit of stalking, but it's fine. And then I save these people into a little folder, create a written template, because there's a lot of people to kind of message. Basically states, hi, my name's Amy, I'm from All Magazine, this is what we do. We'd love to feature you in our magazine. This is kind of what it'll be like. As I've said there, you kind of have to change the wording sometimes depending on the person you're messaging, because if it's someone that's, I guess, a bit more professional, you'll have to kind of tailor it to that. If it's someone that uses a bit more slang in their kind of work, then tailor it to that, because you want to be able to relate to them and have them respond to you. Once they've kind of responded, then I usually say, send your best images via WeTransfer, highest quality images, and then a piece of writing. With the writing, I tend to ask them to send it to me in first person. I do this because I want the tone of voice of the artist to actually come across, so that once they read it, once the reader actually reads it, they can then look through the work and realize this is like the person I'm kind of looking at, and kind of get their tone of voice and who they are as a person. Also, it's a bit of a cheat code because it means that I don't have to do loads of writing. So yeah. This is massive one. Utilize the people around you. Manchester is full of cool things and people, and you need to take advantage of that. Even the people sat next to you, they know things. Quality control of content. Make sure that you're consistent in the quality of work that you're featuring, whether this be your own photography or content or someone else's, because it needs to retain its tone of voice. As I say here, if you have a friend who's dying to be in it, but it just doesn't fit it, then you've kind of got to let them down. It sounds harsh, but you have to create the vision the way that you want it. So here's some useful slides from my old sketchbook when I did the project. If you want to take some photos of these, feel free. But it's just some like important things to remember. So first off, I went for the intended outcomes for the end of the project, what I wanted to come out of the project. So we had magazine, print, magazine, video and digital for the offline, online, an intro video to kind of, introduce it. Where am I going to sell the digital print? On a website, social media to promote it, and then any HD photography, use the Daylight Studio, use all the equipment down in the AV store as well. But then you've got to think, what else? What other touch points? Anything unique or out of the ordinary? Attitude and voice. This is the values of the magazine. Do you want it to be loud or quiet, clear or legible? So I went with edgy, artsy, bold, expressive, artistic, dramatic, colourful, and statement. And being able to refer back to these means that my magazine stays consistent through each issue. I also kind of wanted to mess around a little bit with like illustrative or expressive and abstract kind of drawings. Format. Print and digital, so online and offline, the layout design, paper types, spines, how many pages you want to do, the shape and size of your magazine doesn't have to be A4, doesn't have to be rectangle, it can be a circle if you want it to be, fold outs, textured paper, all things to kind of really consider. Also to explore, you want to think about your cover design, grids and structures. Color palettes are massive because I really feel like before you even know what the image is and before you even see the text, you see the colors. And so color palettes and establishing a proper color palette is really important. Also typography and fonts. What says your magazine? What has that tone of voice through a font? Image aesthetic and styling, graphic elements, and art direction. But back to All Magazine. So coming up with a niche. What makes your magazine different? Try not to copy something that's already existing, but it gives your magazine a unique selling point and something that could maybe be played through with its design. All Magazine's niche was a different city for each issue. However good that I may feel like it is, there are pros and cons. So you get to focus on and discover talented individuals, and by working on a different city for each issue, I have to find these like hidden gems of creatives and work harder to find them in that city. I get to create a network of people across the UK and eventually abroad. I also get to travel to these new places because if I was working remotely in Manchester, outsourcing all of these other people, I would stay in Manchester. Whereas by going into a different city for each issue, I do a launch party in every different city, so I get to travel. Cons is obviously limiting the amount of creatives to feature in each issue, and there's less ability to do repeated cities. So generating a name. Obviously, looking back on these now, 2 years later, they are a little bit cringy, so don't mind me, but wanted a name that was short and punchy, like Vogue or Dazed. I did a poll on Instagram to see what people liked, kind of get opinions, second opinions, something that has a vibe of what the magazine was all about. So obviously, with it being all creatives, all different cities, I thought, why not all? It originally started off with a tagline of artists living life, but looking back on it, I really hate that, and I've eradicated that now. So, but that's kind of where it came about. So, what image do you want to give off? What do you want to be with this magazine? Who do you want to be with this magazine? What audience do you want? This is a really important one, as what does your audience wear, watch, read, eat? Really understand your audience will be the key to keeping consistency in your magazine. This will all help you determine your content and layout. So research. You can find research through physical books, magazines, zines, bookshops, as Unitom in Stevenson Square, online, social media, websites, articles, TV adverts. I often pause the TV if there's something cool on there and take a little photo. Posters on the street, architecture around Manchester, record and album covers. Layout designs. So I made about, I think it was like 3 A3 sheets of just like hundreds of layout designs, but it was great because when I was struggling to actually put the magazine together, I could refer back to these. So by making loads and loads of these, it actually really helps you out. And of course, I'm sure you're all aware by now, but use InDesign if you are wanting to do it professionally. So these are some of the layouts from issue 3, which is focused on London and London creators. This is the most recent one that I've done. Done 3 issues in total, as you've seen before. But yeah, I played around with some elements on this. However, for issue 3, I wanted to keep it a lot more simple, refined, and kind of more professional looking than perhaps the other ones that I did before, hence why I changed the cover over. But these are some of my favorite ones, some really good artists in this one. So thinking about cover design, what image do you want to be on the front? What says My Magazine? Shapes, colours, iconography, what will the header text be? Will it be curvy, bold, bubble, hand-drawn or sleek? As you can see the ones above, they're all quite different, but they all really stand out and they have a particular tone of voice for each one. So for these, I've just kind of made a little bit of notes, but bold colours, consistent throughout all three. As you can see, I changed to more refined design for issue 3. Issue 1 cover was a bit more experimental because it was a uni project at the time. Obviously, I've removed the tag phrase. Soft touch lamination for issue 1 and 2, which was kind of like the feel of the magazine. Everyone really enjoyed the soft touch lamination. But what happened is when you got grease on your fingers or sweat on your fingers, it really imprinted on the magazine cover. And so I didn't really like that. Also, I wanted something that was a bit more kind of professional looking and shiny. So I went for gloss for issue 3. And then the photo chosen for issue 3, I was originally going to go with another photograph, but the artist didn't want to be on the cover. So I changed over to this, and I'm really happy that I did, because looking back, this is kind of what represents All Magazine better. It represents it more. It's bold, it stares straight at you, it's bright and red, it's nice. And obviously on the bookshelves, it kind of really stands out, as you can see here. This one is Good News in Soho in London, and then this one is Unitom in Simpson Square in Manchester. But you can kind of see how it stands out on the bookshelf, and that's kind of what you're trying to aim for. You want people to pick it up, you want people to read it, you want people to go through it. So printing, I use Mixam because, to be honest, I had a little look at loads of local printers in Manchester, and as much as it's great to use local printers, they were super expensive. So Mixam's just a great way to do it. It's really easy to use. You can actually change all the different things like the pages, the color, the size, and then you can work within your budget because it will update the price in real time. And then it will tell you if your colors, your bleeds off, and allows you to export straight from InDesign as a PDF into it. It's just really easy to use, and you know, if it works, then why knock it? So how to take the project further? Touch points wise, you want to kind of think about the magazine, and I know maybe the magazine term is loose in the project, it can be anything really. It can be a skate magazine with wheels, it can be anything really. But you want to think of other touch points to take the project further. So you've got social media, website, packaging, posters, videos, promotional photo shoots, merchandise, e.g. t-shirts, lighters, and then launch events as well. This is so big, but make use of the university, specifically the AV store, because honestly, everything costs so much money when you leave uni, and you've got it all for free here, so you might as well use it. But it does help if you kind of have those friends or people that you know that can help give you discounts and stuff like that. But don't be afraid to haggle a little. The second launch party, we've got the venue hire down from 160 quid to 80 quid, just by being really firm on the budget. But you can make it work. So yeah, photo shoots. This was done in the Daylight Studio using one of my friends, just really quickly. Here's some more professional photo shoots that I did for issue 3. This is one of my photographer friends. He kind of used his medium format camera. So I got some nicer photos out of that one, but obviously, you know, you don't have to do all of that. So these are just some 3D elements, if it will play. Okay, well, I don't think they're playing. Oh. Okay, anyway, they're meant to spin. So they're 3D elements. The box on the side is what my friend made, and then I made the text in the middle on Blender. Good tip for Blender is, I don't know if you guys have used glyphs, but if you make your own font for the magazine and put it into glyphs, you can add it to your font book, which you can then put into Blender and make it 3D, if you wanted to do something like that. Oh, there we go, it's moving now. These are some t-shirts that we've done. The recent one, most recent event was Open Till Late, X All Magazine. It was like an art exhibition and music event. So I designed this t-shirt, drew it on Procreate, and then put it on there. And then this one was a poster that was done for the issue 3 launch by a friend, who we then put on the t-shirt as well. You can see them obviously when you leave or at the end over there. So, All Magazine events. As you see, this poster was done by Lucy, who was actually on the course with us. So, launch events, if this will play. Okay, so this was the first launch. as it was just kind of a uni project at this point, I wanted to keep it simple. So I thought, okay, so where can I do it? I was having a look at a couple of venues in Manchester. There's a place called Pull Up Bar and Cafe that does really good Jamaican food and really lovely. Sharon, who's there, she's great. So friends came through, we put on some food, and I actually got the venue hire down by exchanging some graphic design work for her flyers. And we got the whole thing, food included, for like 80 quid. So yeah, real nice success. So issue 2, I was never going to really do an issue 2 because it was just meant to be for the project. I just wanted to take the project as far as I could and then leave it there. But I had a lot of people message me after the first issue and say, oh, I want to be in it, I want to be in it. Hence why I made a Manchester 2. This is when I started to take things more seriously. So, you know, upping the game in terms of like the photography, the promotional material, like the videos. Got someone to film this event, which video is done by Mocha. Sorry if that's really loud. So yeah, this is done at ATMA, February 2022. So yeah, you get the gist. But yeah, that was really successful. We actually sold out the magazines on the night, and because obviously I'm doing it all on my own and I'm like self-funding it as well by saving up, I was literally at the front saying, please everyone buy a magazine so I can afford my rent. So it actually went really well and I managed to afford rent. But yeah, so issue 3 London was the one that we did in May last year. I say we and us because I'm so used to kind of presenting as a team just to be taken more seriously, but it is just me. So if I do say we and us, that's what I mean. But yeah, issue 3 London is the one that I'm most proud of. It was the most successful. I put a bit more into the budget with this in terms of getting someone to do a poster, someone to do a video and everything else, just because it does become quite overwhelming doing it all on your own. And I'm someone that likes to kind of be able to do it all on my own. And so, you know, kind of giving away some of the work actually really helped. Even though I initially didn't really want to, it was actually a lot better for me. But yeah, this was launched in Soho. I worked with this vintage clothing store, Dunno Created. I contacted them myself through Instagram. Sent over a pitch. They were great to work with and brought a really great crowd. So I had some of their people from London and some of my people. So overall, we actually were filling out onto the street. It was really good. This is the video. I don't know if it's going to be really loud, but this is the video that my friend Alia made. Oh, there we go. I did scream and call. Sorry.
Now this one is designed for 18 and over.
As you can imagine, it goes on. But yeah, so this is a panel show that I did. I wanted to kind of do something right before the London launch just to generate a bit of kind of hype around the magazine because, again, doing it all of myself, I'm doing things outside of this. Like I waitress on the side to get money from my flat, and then obviously I'm doing stuff at the warehouse project. So, you know, it does take a lot of kind of time and effort to kind of be doing this on my own. So there is a lot of gap in between each magazine. There's about a year gap in between each magazine. And so it's trying to get things to generate the hype back up because you can feel like, especially on Instagram, you can feel like it kind of dips. So I do these kind of things to bring it back up and get everyone in the know about it, ready for the next launch party. So yeah, I did a panel show. Not gonna lie, I was really scared about it. Probably like today where I'm speaking in front of a load of people. But yeah, it was at Canvas Oxford Road, went really well. Invited some local artists, photographers, designers in Manchester. And I stood up at the front, asked them a couple of questions, and it was great. We had loads of people attending, and yeah, overall just a really great night. And I think it was just a nice addition on top of the launch parties, which are more like a party, whereas this was kind of more professional art event, I guess. So it's just... just a couple of videos of the space. As you can see, I utilised like the projectors and stuff to get some videos on the wall. I was really specific about the lighting as well, as you can imagine working at warehouse projects. But yeah, it was great. I'm planning on doing another one soon, so if any of you are interested. So yeah, I've done some more collaborative exhibition events. Did Paradigm in April 2022, which was at Antwerp Mansion. It was really good. The whole building was kind of falling down, but it gave like an artsy vibe. It was cool. Curb Wine, that was a bit of a celebration after the Issue 3 launch event. So that was at the local wine place, Curb Wine, in Ancoats. They were really nice. It's just like a really small event, just to get some more people looking at the magazine, buying the magazine. Then November last year, did All Magazine Collective Party with London rapper SBK. He actually performed at the London launch for Issue 3. I didn't really know him at the time. He kind of just jumped on the mic, but he was really good. And he actually then approached me and was saying he wanted to do his debut show in Manchester, so to work together on kind of an art and music event, which went really well. Again, it was at Canvas, but it was in the other room. And then recently, I think it was like 2 weeks ago now, did the Open Till Late X All Magazine Sprinter Series Part 1. Again, Open Till Late approached me and kind of said, we're doing this 2-part series event thing. Do you want to be a part of the first one? Because we're going to kind of make it an art exhibition. And it's really good to actually collaborate with people on these kind of things, because budget-wise, you can share all the budget. Secondly, you get their crowd and your crowd, so you get more people going. And from my kind of sake of view, they have 4 people involved in their team, and it's just me. So it's kind of nice to be able to share the load a little bit more. So yeah, this was the collective party with SBK. Featured 3 local artists, a guy called SB, a guy called George, and a guy called Alia, who actually made the video for the London launch. Went really well. So yeah, this is the most recent one that we did. This poster I designed on their iPad for them. And then we used that to print a load of flyers and posters, and we stuck them all up. I don't know if you saw, but I came in with a friend and handed a load of flyers out on the tables. So they were here as well. But yeah, so we kind of used that on all the posters and everything else. Then we transferred that graphic over to some t-shirts, made it black and white, obviously. Got a nice little label printed. These are like local printers and local t-shirt suppliers as well. And to be honest, the t-shirts are actually really good quality, and I'm not just saying that. These ones like are really good quality. And then I also wrote the poem on the back, because the theme of the event was to do with movement. We were going to hire someone to kind of write a poem, and I just thought, oh, I'll do it myself. I'm not paying for that. So yeah, it actually turned out really well. You can have a look, obviously, a little bit. And then this was the event that we got filmed recently. This was at Islington Mill, if any of you know where that is. Turn the volume down on this one a bit. Power to the people back once again. Default damager, ill behavior back once again. Will the renegade master? Default damager. Power to the people back once again. Will the renegade master? Default damager. The ill behavior back once again. Will the renegade master? Default damager. Power to the people back once again. Will the renegade master? Default damager. The ill behavior back once again. Will the renegade master? Default damager. Power to the people back once again. Will the renegade master? Default damager. Cut that short. But yeah, that was actually a really successful event. It was great working with Open Till Late. They obviously took a lot of the load off, and we ended up selling, we sold out on tickets actually. Yeah, we sold out on tickets, and it was great. It was a really good night. Everyone enjoyed it. The music was great. So yeah, that was that. Business stuff, which you might want to know if you want to take it further. There's a couple of things here that I want to go through. Distributors. For issue 3, because it was London, and I thought, right, I'm going to take it seriously. I'm going to treat it like a business. I'm going to go for the capital city, and we're going to do the whole thing. I'm going to get a good video, a good poster, everything else. I wanted to work with distributors. So I spoke to Tim, who owns Unitom, who I've got kind of a working relationship with from stock in the magazine there. And he mentioned MMS London, which, to be honest, absolutely great to work with. But I did make some lessons, which was, unless you're a big, massive company with loads of financial backing and a big team of people, probably don't want to be using distributors, just because they did take quite a large percentage, and yeah, they basically, I think this is like industry standard, so it's nothing against MMS, but they destroyed like 60 copies when they sent them back to me, which I didn't anticipate. It's probably my fault. But yeah, obviously, if they're like 15 quid each, that was a lot of money lost. So that was that. But they did provide a stock list of all these places that they sent them to. All these places are, I think there's like 16 in London, there's some in Bristol, there's some in Bath, there's some in maybe one in Liverpool, but some other places. They're just all around the UK, which is really great because I wouldn't have really known about some of these bookshops, and having to do them all individually would have been quite a challenge. But now that I've got that stock list as well, in the future I can approach these bookshops myself. Bookshop percentages is a big one because they do take quite a large percentage. Not everywhere, some places only take like 10%, but I've had like, you know, between 40 and 60%. And when you're kind of self-funding it yourself and doing everything yourself, it does add up to a lot of money. So yeah, finances. So I saved up, which was a lot of money. As you can imagine, like I was using my student loan at the time, which is why I was like, please buy a magazine, I need to get rent. But I did speak to a financial advisor. There are some financial advisors you can actually speak to for free through the government. I can't remember what they were called, but I can give it to you if you get my email at the end. Funding, there's local art councils that will fund projects like this, or investors if you come to them with a pitch, but that's quite, you know, a challenge. But yeah, so those are the challenges I faced with that. Preparing for a team. So with me doing it all kind of on my own, I have thought about, and I've had a lot of people ask as well, how I would feel about maybe starting a team of people. With me, to be honest, I kind of, you know, I'm very stuck on my vision. I'm kind of one of those people that's quite a perfectionist. However, it is a lot of work to do on my own. Like it's a lot of work. It's a lot of stress as well when it's not the sole thing that you're doing. But it's great to either start with a team of other people or to just kind of outsource freelancers for particular things. So like for the London launch, I got Lucy, who was on the graphic design course, to do the poster, got people to do the videos, and that kind of lightens the load just so that you can focus on the actual design of the magazine itself. So yeah, that's that. So yeah, where I see All Magazine going in the future. So this summer, I'm going to be doing a Bristol issue, looking at really talented people in Bristol, art, photography, fashion, music, maybe kind of going out to like jewelry and all the bits because we've done that in the past. But then eventually I want to do every city in the UK that has a load of creative people there. Eventually, because obviously I'm limiting myself between each city, like say if I do London and then 5 people from London message me after the issue's out, it's kind of limiting. However, I'm going to do an all UK, which is like a big bumper version of everyone that kind of missed out in all the different cities. And then eventually I want to kind of do all magazine international, move it out of the UK and kind of do Berlin, Barcelona, Paris, Copenhagen, all those kind of places. I think Berlin's probably first because Chris, who we know from our course, he's moved out there. So it's kind of helpful. But yeah, that's kind of where I see the magazine going in the future. This is a little shameless plug. There are issues here. That's how much they cost. That's the website. There's also t-shirts for sale. I know you're all poor students, so don't feel obliged. But yeah. So yeah, next issue. I thought this would be a great opportunity. If any of you are from Bristol, know anyone from Bristol, I'm looking for people. So I'm going to leave my email, Instagram, everything else at the end. So please message me with cool people because I'm currently trying to find them all. So yeah, these are all my things, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Amy. We'll do a bit of product placement. You're up here. Yeah, with product placement as well. So. Okay. Hello. Yeah. Thank you, Amy. It's a really insightful process, certainly for students in terms of where they're at, whether it's a magazine that you're starting up or whether it's any kind of independent venture. I think the kind of insight behind the curtain, I think, has been really, really interesting. I mean, I didn't even have this question prepared, but going off what you kind of all talked about then in terms of the amount of work it takes to produce not just the design of it and the curation, but everything that goes on behind the scenes in terms of promoting it. I'm sure a lot of students would love to know, just in terms of a time frame, how long would an average issue of this kind of magazine at this kind of level, working absolutely solo as an operation, how long on an average would this kind of project take?
Okay, so obviously as I do like other things on the side, it's kind of hard to gauge, but I'd say probably about from start to finish about 6-7 months. Just because first off, I need to actually scout people. I need to spend ages finding people. You know, half the time, some of them don't even answer you. So you've really got to spend a lot of time and finding people who are like the level of quality that you want. Then you've obviously kind of got to actually make it. And I'm such a perfectionist that I will do it right up until the last minute. And I've been staring at it for hours and hours and hours. And then you have to plan like the launch events, you have to kind of plan all the finances of it as well. So yeah, about 6 or 7 months. But usually my way of working, which is probably not the best, you don't want to take inspiration from this, is just really rushing at the end and trying to get it all done. So, but yeah, if you did it like kind of slowly and did it properly, about 6 or 7 months.
I think we can all resonate with the rushing
Yeah,
at a deadline, staff and student included. I think one of the interesting things maybe for us and maybe for the students here, because this project, as you talked about, started at Unit X at second year and it's kind of grown and grown since then, did you kind of set out at that point when you came up with All Magazine, did you see it as a project that was going to go ongoing beyond, you know, the university and into your graduation years and where you're at now, or did you at the time see it as something that was purposely for a project, purposely for a unit, hand it in, out the way, forever done?
Yeah, so when I first got the project, I remember I was sat in Fallowfield in my bedroom on my desk, and we were obviously doing all the COVID stuff online at the time. And I thought, oh, actually, this is like a project that I could be really interested in. It's something that I really like. I didn't necessarily ever see myself going into publishing because I'm kind of more of a motion designer. But I thought, oh, this could be really cool. I really like coffee table books. I really like magazines. Let me try and do this. And so I thought, okay, well, we've got to make, I think it was like 6 or 7 layouts and kind of put together a cover and stuff. And I thought, well, I'll just do a whole magazine, why not? And then I thought, oh, I'll do it on my friends because there's a lot of cool people that I know around Manchester that are kind of doing cool stuff. So I'll just do it on them as a subject. And then as the time went on throughout the project, I started to really kind of get into it. But as which is hence why I did all the extra stuff, I did the launch event, all of that kind of stuff. Initially, I did kind of see it as just a project, but and I think I didn't have as much faith in myself at the start, but as I started to kind of see the launch event come together and the actual magazine itself come together, and people really kind of hyping it up, I was like, okay, maybe I could do something with this. And it was truly like the turning point of wanting to make it into something bigger than it already was all of the people that messaged me after the first issue basically saying, we want to be in it, we really like it, it's really cool what you're doing. And it kind of gave me that little confidence boost to say, do you know what, maybe I should do this, maybe I can make this into something.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
One thing, I kind of thought about this when you were talking about the locations and the cities, and have you kind of picked up on any differences when you've kind of looked at Manchester as opposed to London or in the current stage with Bristol? Like, have you picked up on the different kind of visual cultures or design cultures, or are they all kind of looking at similar kind of qualities, or are there different approaches according to kind of where people are situated? Like, does their kind of identity be defined by the city they're working in? Have you kind of picked up on any differences, or are they all kind of really just about being a really hungry, young creative looking for a platform?
I think, yeah, definitely the latter. However, I think mainly because I'm situated in Manchester and I kind of established myself in terms of like social groups in Manchester, I think I've always found it easier to have access to people here and kind of understand what they're about. Whereas when I went to London, I guess because I was kind of, you know, treading in water that I hadn't before, I knew a couple of people out there. It was a lot harder to kind of understand the kind of style that I was going for in there and get people as well and have people take you seriously as well, which is something that I worry about moving to all these different cities is my following is in Manchester, and so going to these different cities, am I going to get the same amount of following? But that's kind of where the like collaborative stuff comes in, working with venues that are already there, that already kind of know people, messaging people that know people. But yeah, in terms of like visual identity, I think London's very saturated with people, so it was quite easier to find people. However, I feel like Manchester, people that I approached anyway, were more willing to want to work with me, if that makes sense. I think because obviously London, there's so many opportunities everywhere. And, you know, I'm a Manchester-based magazine. It was kind of harder to like get my foot in the ground a little bit. But yeah.
This isn't a north and south divide.
Yeah, sorry, it's not, yeah.
Talking about collaboration, so obviously, you know, you start this as a solo project. It was solely you as a student, and as it's grown and grown and grown, more and more people have kind of flooded into this in terms of who you showcase, the venues you work with. I just wondered whether, I think it'll be really useful for students, but also just a really good insight into how you work in terms of your collaborative process. So I know a few of the times you've kind of put call outs for people in these locations, but are you also kind of seeking these people out? And then is there an ongoing collaboration in terms of, do they get a say in terms of how they're perceived in the magazine or the selection of images? And I guess also there's a lot of collaboration going on with the events as well, which we'll kind of get to, about kind of, you know, musicians, DJ. There's a lot of kind of pooling of collaborations going on. I just wondered if you could give an insight into how that comes to be and the kind of structure of how you kind of collaborate.
Yeah, so obviously collaboration is really important. It's one of the main things of the magazine. It's community and collaboration. But in terms of like how people are being perceived, it's really important that I keep that person's tone of voice and that person's personality there. As much as I kind of want to blend it with the quality and the style and the tone of voice of the magazine, it's really important to kind of keep them at where they are. Like when they send me their writing, yes, I'll change it into proper English with Grammarly and stuff like that, but I want kind of their mannerisms to come across through their writing, so that when you read through their, when you look through their like pictures, it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I think collaborating is great. I think it really can open doors in terms of like getting other crowds to come. It's hard to kind of push it on your own and be the only one promoting it as well. So having kind of a backing from other people is really helpful. But yeah, what was the first half of the question? Sorry.
I can't remember. No one's keeping track here. I wanted to talk about the launch parties, because I know you touched on it a bit, and obviously today's more about the All Magazine project, but for anyone that doesn't know, Amy works for Logan and Wilcox, who are audio-visual collective, work a lot with warehouse projects and other kind of live events, and I know you were talking about working with Blue Dot at one point.
Blue Dot and Park Life, yeah.
And Park Life. So watch this space. But obviously, do you feel like the launch parties came from your interest from that side of your practice, and how integral do you feel these launch parties are to the All brand as a magazine? Yeah,
so yeah, I do love events, obviously, as I work in events as well. But to be honest, the launch parties were kind of just an excuse for me to have a party, because I do enjoy just having a party and getting everyone together, and so it's a great excuse to do so. But I think it's really integral in terms of trying to get the actual promotion for it, because obviously in our day and age, if something's hyped up, then more people will jump on it and it will become bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's just kind of the way it is. So the more that you kind of get people together and people taking photos and videos and making content and pushing out content when, you know, it kind of maybe seems stagnant, it kind of generates that hype that more people will follow on, and more people will kind of start to, like, you know, go along with you, I guess. It's a shame it's like that, really, but it's like, it's just the way it is. You've just kind of got to generate it as time goes on. But having these parties are great, because with it being community and collaboration, it's great to bring everyone in their city together and have them meet other creatives that they might not have known were in their own city. So that's always a fun thing. And these people, hopefully, my aim is as well for these people to kind of meet each other and collaborate further outside of the magazine, outside of the events. But yeah, just get to know everyone. I don't like this whole Instagram famous, like really kind of cliquey stuff. Like, I just want everyone to, you know, artist helping artist kind of vibe, where everyone just gets together, has fun, collaborates further.
I don't know if I'm showing my age, but I really liked the free food party opposed to the food parties, but that's my age these days. touching on your kind of audio-visual work with Logan and Wilcox, which we didn't necessarily see a lot today because it's more about the magazine, but in research, like Phil, who was meant to be chairing this event, who couldn't make it, he's moving house and he's been living in Airbnb for the last 6 months or something. So he kind of, in researching some of the questions, he talked about it's really interesting that the word entrepreneur stems from a French phrase about bringing people together and having this kind of audience and this kind of essentially a launch party in many ways. And I think in terms of what you're doing with the audio-visual stuff, certainly with live events, there's a link to a lot of the launch parties you're doing. In terms of those bigger live events like Warehouse Project and so on, do you feel the visual component has now become as much of part of that show as the audio component? And how do you feel the kind of audience has been resonating with that?
So that's important you ask that, because I do get asked this a lot. Obviously, I know that I'm probably biased because I'm coming from an audiovisual area, but I really do think visuals are super important, especially now. You're seeing a lot more events really utilising visuals, utilising projection mapping, LED screens, all that kind of stuff. And from like a sensory point of view, when you're listening to music, you kind of want to have something to look at, and when the visuals match up with what you're hearing, it creates more of an immersive experience. And so I just think it's really important, and it's really cool to look at stuff. And obviously, having been kind of more of a partier, I can like see it from the other side. So when I'm like doing the visuals, I kind of know what people want to see, and like when the beat drops and all that kind of stuff, and people going crazy. But it's great at Warehouse projects because when they stick on the lasers, you can just hear this like low ooh across the crowd. But yeah, I think they're really important because I think it's just that step up in events now. Whereas when you kind of go to events, unless it's like some kind of like really small basement vibe, if you go to kind of an event in like a big area, if you don't have that kind of visual aspect, yes, you can use the lights and everything, but if you don't have that visual aspect, it almost feels a bit dull now, especially like these days when they're using everything. And I'm sure you've seen like when Printworks had their big massive screen at the front, and Warehouse Project's got this big long screen on the ceiling now. But yeah, I think it's really important, but as I say, I might be biased.
Could be. My last question, and then we'll kind of open it up to anyone else that wants to kind of speak to Amy, but obviously, like today's event was kind of subtitle kind of exploring identities. Now, I was going to ask you kind of as a kind of contemporary creative or a contemporary entrepreneur out there, kind of initiating all these independent kind of projects, what kind of personality traits or identity traits do you feel it takes to work this independently and set up your own kind of projects and make them work and make them succeed, and I guess more importantly make them sustain like, you know, over time?
Yeah, at risk of sounding cheesy, I think just having that kind of hunger for it. I think like I'm one of those people where, you know, I can kind of fall in and out of things quite easily, but being able to actually have the consistency to keep with it, and having the creativity as well. I'm sure you all very creative being on a graphic design course anyway. But yeah, just having the actual motivation to do it is really hard to self-motivate, as I say, like especially when you're doing it on your own, because if you don't think something's working, there's no one kind of behind you to say, yeah, it is, or like you can't get like second opinions and stuff unless you like outright ask people. But yeah, I think just being able to actually have the like drive to really do it. And what drives me is when people start kind of really hyping it up, to be honest, when people go, oh, that was actually really good, or, oh, I really had a great time, it kind of gives me that like push to kind of want to do it again and want to do it bigger and better. But yeah, I guess just being hungry for it.
Having a bit of money, yes.
Well, having a little bit, but then at the same time, as I say, you can like work around it, because I don't want it to kind of seem as if you need loads of money to do this kind of stuff. If you like really like cleverly utilize the people around you, you can actually get like a lot of favors and free things, and it really helps to push it. But yeah, you'd have to save up a little bit to a point.
I think it comes back down to that DIY. I think that I know Manchester's kind of known for a lot in terms of our creative city. That, you know, you go down to London and you picked up.
They've
like,
got a massive budget.
Totally different kind of culture in not saying 100%, but its majority is kind of very different. Whereas Manchester, I think it's got this reputation of kind of
making it work.
You go through the history of design within Manchester, and a lot of these kind of things spur from somebody that's hungry with an idea or an ambition, and so
and
I
just
think that
trying
works
every way
nicely.
to kind of make it work, and like
Definitely.
You know.
So Gemma, do you want to man the student questions, or Amanda? So if anyone's got a question, are we showing hands?
got one.
If you're self-financing everything, then how do you manage to cope with stuff like food bills or like, I don't know, a medical emergency or rent and that kind of thing? Is it livable to do the things that you do?
Yeah, I won't lie, it's very difficult to be honest. Like there are times when you're struggling a bit. Like personally, I try and use my freelance work to get a little bit of extra money. So like doing kind of freelance jobs with graphic design or kind of picking up events visuals. But yeah, it is a struggle, especially at the start when there was like barely any budget. I was using my uni loan and everything else. But as you kind of get a bit more into it and you start selling things and you start doing events, events are a great thing because if you work out with the actual venue itself, which a lot of venues do, is that basically if you make a certain amount of money on the bar, you don't have to pay venue hire. So obviously it's a bit of stress and a bit of responsibility to try and get people to buy drinks. But usually that kind of works out by not having to pay the venue hire. And then you also can make a little bit of money off the tickets and then put that money back into Next Magazine and kind of generate this budget over time. But to be honest, I have had like a lot of times where I've been struggling or I've not had a job and I've had to kind of dip into that magazine budget just to pay for bills or pay for food and stuff and had to put the magazine on hold. So yeah, it is a struggle, I'm not gonna lie, but if you like really kind of just consistently work at it and, you know, keep going with it, you can like make things work. So yeah.
When coming out of uni, were you like torn between motion and publication? Sort of, was there like, were you ever deciding which one you're going to go with in the end?
Yeah, so when I was in third year, I was working at the Warehouse Project then, and I was doing the magazine as well. And so I was kind of, I've always been torn into these like two separate areas. However, when I was in third year, just at the very end of third year, we had a guest lecture with this woman called Kate Dawkins, who does immersive experience design, which is something I'm really interested in, or like projection mapping rooms and all like touch sensory stuff. And I actually emailed back and forth, was very keen, as she said, and managed to actually get a job with her down in London. So I was working in Hackney for 3 weeks. I quit my job as a bartender and I was sleeping in a hostel two days a week. And yeah, just making it work because it's something that I really wanted to go for. That then fell through because the investors decided not to carry on the project. So I was there for 3 weeks. And so, yeah, it was kind of hard to like balance all of that. And so originally I kind of wanted to go for visuals. I wanted to kind of go for all of that. But then recently as such, I've kind of wanted to go a little bit more into publishing. I think, to be honest, I've like split myself evenly between the two. But in terms of like what I want to do for a job long term, I'd probably lean more towards motion and visuals. But yeah, I love doing the magazine, but it is a lot of work, to be honest. I do kind of want to get a bit more of a team together, and obviously like financially it's quite a lot. But yeah, I really enjoy both of them. So like right now I'm kind of just doing both. So yeah. Anyone else? Silent walk.
How do you make sure to get people, like say collaborators, to pull through with their work and like you give them a deadline, stuff like that? Or as well, like, is there any certain characteristics that you look for? Like, oh, yeah, you're gonna pull through. You're gonna do some good stuff.
Yeah, so basically, just kind of be a little bit annoying, to be honest. Like, I message people and then like if they kind of don't get it by the deadline, I message them again. And do you know what I mean? Obviously you want to do it to a point where they don't get annoyed with you and they still want to do it, but you kind of just got to be really on the ball and make sure that the deadline that you set for people sending things is well in advance to the deadline of you actually sending it off to print. Because I had this girl who I really wanted to be in it and I was really trying to get her in it for ages. She kept saying, yeah, and then just didn't send it me for months. And I kept asking her. And then eventually she sent it and it was like a week before I was meant to send it off to print. So I had to like put her feature in really quickly. So yeah, it is quite an effort, but having backups really helps because if that person just doesn't pull through, then you've got someone else. But yeah, just like keeping on at them really, to be honest. Yeah. Is that everything? Is that all your question?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I always like to chip in with a question.
Go for
I was really interested, actually. You mentioned that the Unit X project you were working on was during COVID times. And I'm curious if you think the format and the kind of the live sort of elements to it were shaped almost by that COVID experience. So I was sort of imagining the live events maybe came from a real desire once we were all allowed back out again, but also the kind of online aspects to it.
Yeah, so it was actually really important during COVID to kind of try and figure out a way to work through it in a way that was kind of, you know, COVID safe, but also like in person, because that's what the magazine was about. It's about community, it's about being together. And coming through a time where it was like everyone was separate, like we barely knew like anyone in second year. It's only like kind of third year that we really got to know each other as a course. And so it was quite a lot, but yeah, I don't know, I think working through COVID, I don't really know how to answer it, to be honest. Yeah, sorry, can you just remind me? Yeah, sorry, it was...
So it just mean, if it hadn't have been for COVID, and you
Yeah.
hadn't have, do you think it might have taken a different format or a different kind of trajectory?
Yeah, so I think it kind of really gave me a push to like want to make the most out of it as well, because we were all just sat in our uni flats, basically doing nothing. And so it kind of really gave me that creative outlet to do something rather than just sitting around doing absolutely nothing and all day. But it was kind of, I think if I was to do it not during COVID, I think it definitely would have taken a different route. I think perhaps, I don't think I would have been as motivated for it, honestly, because as I say, like being kind of just stuck in your flat, not really having anything to do, gave me that push to want to do it more. Whereas if I was kind of in uni and, you know, I think maybe I probably would have slacked off on it a little bit more. But yeah, I don't know how else to answer it other than that.
I think quite an interesting anecdote is during when we started this project, of course, all the teaching was on Zoom at the time.
Yes.
And Teams. And I have a vivid memory of Amy with a stack of magazines on her desk on Zoom, trying to explain to me like this certain layout I find really influential and holding it up to the camera and me kind of like really squinting
really
at the screen. But yeah, and I think going off Gemma's point, like I think COVID was a time where maybe magazines became even more integral, as part of entertainment or just something to pass time by. And I think, you know, we all had our kind of vices, a lot of Netflix on my part.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about whether this would have gone a different direction concept-wise or just, yeah, ambition-wise.
Well, with the online offline kind of thing, because obviously we had to work out how to interpret the brief with the online offline. I wanted to do a digital version and a physical version. And so I could have just more gone for the digital version with it being during COVID. It would have more accessibility to people. But I just feel like there's something that I really enjoy about being able to hold a magazine. I'm big into like coffee table books. And it's something that people really mentioned with the third issue. They mentioned the weight of it. They were really surprised by. And so I just think, yeah, being able to like have physicality and being able to kind of meet people in person, like it was really important, and it became more important after COVID because we were just on the cusp of kind of coming out of it at that point. But yeah, it really made me want to kind of get people in a space together and actually get people meeting each other again. And especially the creative scene as well. I think it was really hard as creatives to do anything really, like photographers, they couldn't meet up with models. Designers, yes, you can do stuff online, but you kind of need to be in person to have conversations about things. But yeah, it was good, but I do think it might have taken a bit of a different direction if it wasn't for COVID.
I remember some academic at the time talking about how expecting post-pandemic this being a revelation of and how the 1920s, sorry, I didn't realise we're in the 20s now, 1920s all came out as a sort of antithesis to the war, and it was kind of a big celebration. So it was kind of almost like a feeling of that they kind of, let's get out there and do stuff.
I'm pretty sure like halfway through my studies as well, there was that, the whole thing of print is dead coming up. And I think we explored that a little bit at uni as well, but it was hard for me because I love print. Like, so hearing that like all print is dead, we're going all digital, we're going online, I just really wanted to move away from that. I don't like it. I like to be in person, physical stuff, meeting people. So yeah.
Gotta fight the fight.
Fight the fight.
Is there any more student questions for Amy? Oh, Sophie.
You mentioned that in third year you was working at the warehouse project then. Like, how did you get into that?
Okay, yeah, so this is an interesting one. So yeah, basically I had a friend who kind of like did visuals but like more lighting tech stuff. He lent me his like MIDI pad that was set up with some like shapes and some other bits. I can't remember what it's called really, but it was like this little pad where you just pressed it and it just generated shapes. Had a little play around with it in my bedroom with a projector that I got from the AV store. And yeah, just really had a little bit of fun with it. It was nothing serious, nothing that I was taking seriously. And then Hit and Run, I don't know if any of you know Hit and Run, the events company messaged me and said, oh, I've seen some stuff that you were doing in your bedroom because I posted it on my design account. And it was during COVID again, and they wanted me to do some, it's called VJing, which is a horrible name, but it's like visual artistry. For their 4-hour Wednesday stream during COVID, because they were still trying to kind of do DJ stuff during COVID. So yeah, basically they said, can you use Resolume, which is the software that I use and it's industry standard. I was like, yeah, I can use Resolume. And then I got off the messages and was like, what the hell is Resolume? Had to like research it, download it. I was like, I don't know what's going on. And then yeah, I just basically the whole 4 hours of that stream, I was just pressing buttons going, I don't know what I'm doing. But just pretending that I did. And then from that, the warehouse project, Logan Wilcox, Vic, who I work for, he got in contact with me. I think because being someone that's a bit younger, they're like always looking for fresh talent because often in like the AV industry, it's like older men. And so I'm not trying to generalize, that is actually what it's like. And so I think being kind of a girl and being younger, they were like, oh, she kind of does AV stuff. And I did have a real interest in it as well. So the warehouse project messaged me, and Vic, who I work for, he's actually an architecture lecturer here. He asked me to come for an interview in his office. So I came into MMU, went into the architecture bit, was like, hi. And he said, oh, do you want to kind of do warehouse projects? And so it's like kind of just snowballed out of nowhere. I have like no idea how I got this job. But it just kind of happened. And then, yeah, literally the first show that I was put on was like the XXL Techno. And I remember being so excited because I was like, oh my God, my name's on the poster. And I had no idea what I'm doing. And to be honest, 3 years later, I'm only just kind of really properly getting into it because there's a lot to learn. And I'm not really super techie. I'm more kind of like art kind of side of things. But yeah, that's how I got into it. And I know it might seem like a bit of a fluke, but it's just kind of how it happened. Like, yeah. But Vic is looking for some visual artists if any of you are interested in that kind of stuff. So I'll let him know if any of you are.
I like that the solution is just press the buttons.
Yeah, no, literally, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I was just
press the buttons, guys.
But if you pretend like you know what you're doing, half the time it works.
Yeah, I think big part of the DIY approach is you've got to kind of almost fake it till you make it a lot of the time.
100%.
I think that sometimes people see that as a negative, but I think, I mean, me and Jem were having this conversation actually before the talk about just winging things on the spot. Like I winged that intro and it's probably telling, but I think that is a creative skill in of itself of just kind of selling and going back to that identity thing of like really pushing the identity out there and then learning the craft.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Getting those opportunities and learning on the spot, I think is a massive
Yeah, and you actually
skill.
learn really fast doing that because once you're kind of like thrown into it, it forces you to kind of just pick things up really quickly. But yeah, honestly, if you just have confidence, it really actually genuinely takes you far. I know it sounds cheesy, but it does.
Great.
So yeah.
Any last? Oh, it's Rico again.
Just at the front.
Put your hand up, Rico. Come on.
What's the best way to look for creatives, or maybe them come looking for you?
Honestly, any way really, but I use Instagram, honestly, because I'm just going through it all the time, bookmarking kind of stuff that I really like, finding new people, and honestly, like I just keep going through it and just keep like kind of stalking people a bit. But you go onto someone's account that you really like, and then they'll have like a drop down of other people that are similar accounts, and then I go through all of that, and over time you begin to like follow these people, kind of see what they're posting, see who they're working with, if they do a photo shoot, there's models, directors, everyone attached, just basically just like really in-depth digging into like social media and kind of finding people through that. But as I mentioned before, art events, gallery events, music events, great like opportunities to meet people, because you can go up to them and say, oh, what do you do? And then they'll ask you what you do. That's an opportunity to kind of say, I do this, and they'll go, oh, I've been looking for someone that does that, and you kind of get jobs through that as well. But yeah, I just kind of go through social media, like really comb through it and just find people that way and then message them that way as well.
What happens if you get to a profile that's private?
Ooh, that's a sticky one. Then
Do you do the cold follow?
no, I move past it,
do you hold
honestly.
back?
Well, it depends. Like if it's someone that to be honest, most of like people's creative business accounts, they're not private because they want you to find them. So I never really encounter that as much. But if I do, then you know, maybe I'll follow them if they look like there'll be something on their page that's interesting. If not, I'll just kind of skip past and keep going. But yeah, just comb through everyone.
It's one of life's complex decisions, isn't it?
Yeah.
Any last question before we wrap up?
I think everyone wants to go home.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Amy.
No worries. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you all listening as well.
Yeah, just a huge thank you. Thanks Adam and Gemma as well, and all of you guys for coming. We've still got 2 more Inspirers left, next Thursday and the Thursday after, if you want to book onto those. And just a final call on your way out, if you haven't scanned for your Rise points, we've got another QR code for you to scan. Thank you very much, everyone.
Oh, just as a quick one, really sorry, there's just stuff that you can have a look at on your way out. Also, let me know about the Bristol people.
Slightly more interesting than a QR code.
Thanks.